Hi, it's Cara, and today we are doing my September wrap-up. It is a little late. It is currently the 8th of October, but I was out of the country until like 2 days ago, so I couldn't film. And I wanted to make sure I got all the books that I read right up until that date, which I'm lucky I did, because if I had done it before I went away, I would have missed 2 books that I read in September. So let's get started. I did also read a lot of things that weren't in physical copy this month. I only have like 4 physical books. So interesting. Well, some of them were graphic novels and manga, and so they're now back at my library, but let's just get to it. So right at the start of September, I was also out of the country. Jessie and I went to New Zealand for the first week of September, and so I read, first off, on the plane there, I read an audiobook, and that is Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is a sci-fi book along a similar vein and style to the Starbound trilogy, which I have here if I'm not in the way. So essentially it has a guy and a girl, and they narrate like one character each. This is more like an Indiana Jones in space, which I really liked. I like the style of storytelling. I thought the story was really interesting, and I'm definitely keen to continue this series. I also thought the audiobook narration was amazing. Pretty sure Steve West did the guy, and I love Steve West. Like, let's be real, Steve West is the best narrator. So I really enjoyed this. Very keen to continue the series next year, and I'm glad I finally got around to picking it up because it was so good. I think I would have given it, I can't even remember. I'm over giving star ratings. I do it on Goodreads as a like vague thing, so I can look at the end of the year and pick out my faves. But yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. Then I read another audiobook, which I did not own previously, so I don't have a physical copy, and that is Heretics Anonymous by, is it Katie Henry? Yes, by Katie Henry. This is a young adult contemporary following our main character who moves to a new town because his parents move around a lot, and they put him into this fancy Catholic private school, and he's trying to deal with Catholicism and like religious schooling and being an atheist and his family life, and he's meeting new friends that kind of break the mold of religious school, and it's choice. It's a good book. I did have a few minor little problems with this, and mainly that was around our main character's objectification of the love interest. And I kind of understood it as a writing technique because it's trying to be like, it was a female author writing a boy. And I have a feeling I tend to notice it most when female authors try to do a male first person narration of a teenage boy. They tend to over-sexualize, and like, yes, teenage boys are sex obsessed or whatever, but that's not universal. That's not like their only defining characteristic. And yes, he was more nuanced than that, but he spent a lot of time just like thinking about his girlfriend naked. And his girlfriend like actively expressed her wish to be a priest. Like, it just didn't quite compute with me, and it felt a little bit like icky. Just a little icky. It just gave me vibes I wasn't a fan of. But otherwise I liked the themes in the book as a whole. I thought it was really interesting. And this deep dive into like our own perception of what's crappy and how that compares to other people's crappy, and like the acknowledgement that everyone's crappy is crappy to them, but also you can't, like, having perspective. And I enjoyed it. There were just a few little things that niggled me the wrong way, so I give this like 4 stars-ish in the scheme of things. Like, it was good, but it had a few niggles. Then I read a book that was undoubtedly a solid 5 stars, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Everyone's been talking about this. It's been hitting the YouTubes by storm. Everyone loves it. I loved it. It was amazing. It was just amazing. This is like a life epic following our main character, or a kind of main character, Evelyn, who was a film star in the 50s, and now she's later in life and is kind of giving her tell-all biography to this girl Monique. And it's just, it's choice. The exploration, like, no one in this book is particularly good. They're not good people. They make some shitty choices, but that's explored and thought out and talked about, and it's just, I really enjoyed this book. I loved it. I read this while I was on holiday and was like absorbed in it. It was so beautiful. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid looks like Halsey in this photo on the back. I'm very keen to read her next novel, which looks like it's kind of like a Stevie Nicks inspired thing. This is like an Elizabeth Taylor kind of tell-all. Like, it's very that like Hollywood glam. The next one, which I think is called Daisy Jones and the Six or something like that, it seems a lot more like a Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks kind of story. And I'm really excited for that. I think I would like to go back and read some of her other works at some point, but they don't appeal to me as much as this did, and that does. So definitely I'm really excited for the next one. Then I read a bunch of shorter things. So first off, I read A Deeper Love by Cassandra Clare and... let me look. A Deeper Love is by Cassandra Clare and Maureen Johnson. So this is the 5th Shadowhunter novella in the Ghosts of the Shadow Market series, which kind of follows Brother Zachariah. Really enjoying it. The series as a whole, and this was book 5, which I really, really liked. It followed Tessa and Katerina during the bombings of London, and it was really good. I gave it 4 stars, I think. I also read The Wicked Ones by Cassandra Clare and Robin Wasserman, which is number 6. This one followed Cecily Herondale. I didn't like it as much, but it was still enjoyable, so I gave it like a 3.5 stars. It was fun and a nice little insight into a character we haven't really explored before. I thought that was pretty nifty. I also read Mara, the graphic novel. This I liked but didn't like at the same time. It's kind of like an exploration of sports culture in the US in a like futuristic setting, as well as superheroes, and yeah, it's like a single volume graphic novel that I thought was good, but it didn't blow me away. I gave it 3 stars. It was just all right. The art style is gorgeous, so I would recommend it on that front, and especially if you're a sporty kind of person or really into superhero comics, like really into them, I think you would really enjoy this. It definitely has a market. I was just not that market per se. I also read Murder on the Orient Express by Emily Lloyd Jones. This is a novella that comes after Elusive and before Deceptive, which are the 2 books currently out in this series. These are another, actually, like, again, a kind of superhero-y kind of thing. These are people with, like, extra abilities, kind of along the reins of Vicious. So our main character can make illusions. And this is a little novella that kind of followed on from the end of the first book, which I read years and years ago, like right when I first started BookTube. And I didn't realize the second one had come out, hence why I bought the second one, which I think I talked about last month? A couple of months ago now. And I read this in preparation. I'm hoping to read the second one in the coming couple of months. It was really fun to delve back into the characters. I'm glad I read it because I read Elusive so long ago. It kind of brought me back into the world. And it was a fun little heist story. So obviously it's a pun on Murder on the Orient Express. So definitely fun. Then I read Clockwork Princess on audiobook. I loved it. Again, this is part of my reread. I've been reading the Mortal Instruments series for the last, like, most of the year on audiobook because I want to catch up. Especially I need to reread Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows in preparation for Queen of Air and Darkness because I can't remember much about them at all, other than some broad themes. And so I was up to Clockwork Princess this past month. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the narration. I liked that it was a single narrator, actually. I think it worked really well for this story and he did a good job of it. And I love Clockwork Princess. It's such a good book. I love it to pieces. Then I read Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This is a bulky little novel that is the first in a sequel, I believe, duology to the Remnant Chronicles. This follows new characters, but there are also some of the old characters present, and I really liked this. This was kind of like a miscommunication trope of a book, which normally bothers me to no end, but it actually wasn't irritating, and I think it was because they were set up. So our two main characters, we follow a thief who is now part of the Queen's Guard and like the Queen from the first books group of like top elite soldiers, and they're sent out to try and investigate and catch one of the main villains from the first book who kind of went under the radar and like disappeared into the mist kind of. So they're sent off in search to find him. And then we also follow this guy. So Kazi is the girl, and then we also follow Jace, who is the boy, and the love interest, and he is the recently like crowned, but they're not crowned. He's just like the new leader of this family that run this town and network, that they're kind of like a mob, but they consider themselves like this long line of this family that built this town from nothing, and it's their town and they consider it theirs exclusively kind of thing. And so they're kind of at odds with each other because she comes into his town looking for this third party. And shit goes down all over the place. So the miscommunication's kind of set up from the very start, where they're both at odds with each other. They've both got a lot of secrets they're trying to keep. And they're on opposing sides, but they have this connection that draws them together. So they keep miscommunicating because neither of them wants to share their secrets. And they both think they're the one in the right about a lot of things. And if they knew each other's sides, they'd both be like, oh, we're both on the same side with this. We would both agree on this. But they put themselves at odds against each other because they're not sharing the full story. So it definitely had miscommunication trope, but it all worked in this instance, I think. In my opinion. I really enjoyed this. I did think at times the plot pacing was a little bit slow, but overall, really enjoyable. I love delving into this world again. I'm definitely excited to see where book 2 goes. The follow-up of like the end wrap up of this left it on a bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm definitely excited to read book 2. Yeah, I think this was a good follow-up. I think I gave it about a 4.5-ish starsy kind of area. Then I read Attack on Titan Volume 1. This is a manga following this group of kids in this town. It's very famous. If you haven't heard of it, you should probably just look it up. It's an anime as well. It's very gory. It's like a horror action kind of thing. I enjoyed the plot of this. And I think I would much prefer the anime. I just had some troubles with the art style. The action scenes would get very My Tamagotchi is complaining. I would get very confused from time to time following the art style and the action scenes. I think that just drew away from the experience for me and took me out of the scene a little bit. So I think I would prefer the anime where I can see the action flowing really well. But overall it was good. Oh, what a naughty Tamagotchi. I hope he evolves cute. Then I read The Art of Taxidermy. I should again check who these things are about. Then I read The Art of Taxidermy by Sharon Kernot. This is an Australian story told in verse. I read this on the plane when I went to Montreal, which is my second trip of the month. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was beautiful and gorgeously written. I liked the verse style. I thought it worked really well. And I got very much nostalgia. This is very much like a depression, grief, alternate coping strategies kind of story. And it was really sweet and touching. Then finally this month I read The Apocalypse of Elena Mendoza by Sean David Hutchinson. This is my first Sean David Hutchinson and I really enjoyed it. This follows Elena, who from the time she was born has been this miracle child. She was born from parthenogenesis, so she was a virgin birth. And then she's always heard these voices of inanimate objects talk to her. And then one day she sees this girl she has a crush on get shot, and she heals her and saves her. And then the guy that shot her gets like zoomed up into the sky, and it kind of goes from there, with everyone being like, what the heck's going on? What's happening? What are we trying to achieve? I really enjoyed this most of the way through. I thought the premise was really interesting. The plot pace was really good and kept going very well, and the character dynamics and character development was great. My only niggle with this is that the ending is so open-ended, and a lot of the plot tensions that are present throughout the whole book don't really get resolved. It's more a character development resolution. Like, the main character's screaming the whole time, like, answer my questions, answer my questions. And then in the end, her questions don't get answered. She just learns that they're the kind of questions that can't get answered. But there was still questions that I had about it. Like, I kind of wanted a secret resolution where she accepts that she can't get the answers, and then you find out anyway. But obviously, he's committed to his cause as an author. He was not revealing them secrets. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I gave it like 4.5 stars kind of thing. It was a really fun read, I think. Some of it was pretty dark, but definitely like magical realism contemporary I can get behind. So those are the books I read this month. I was about to say thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Holy crap. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down below if you've read any of the books that I read last month and would like to chat about them. I feel like I didn't have the best reading month this past month, probably because I was so busy. Like, when I wasn't traveling, I was preparing for my next travel. So I read a lot of shorter things, but I still feel like I achieved something, so that's really good. And next, this coming month, the month we're currently in, I'm hoping it's going to be an amazing reading month, because there are so many new releases coming out that I'm so excited for. So keep an eye out for that. I also have coming up, which I'm about to film right now, my September haul. So keep an eye out for all those things. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.